Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was Venom: The Last Dance, making $3.8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $133 million and a worldwide total of $456 million. So despite the tough competition, Venom is still sticking around. It only dropped 47% from last weekend, which actually is much better than the 54% the movie did have last weekend. Really impressive stuff here. The movie seems to still be maintaining its core audience. The word of mouth does still seem to be there, and it's putting up a good fight against all of the bigger movies out right now. However, I do think this is probably going to be the end of the road for the film in the top 5. I think it's pretty much ran its course at this point. I think we'll see this movie maybe tap out around $145 million domestically. Again, just because the big competition heading into the holiday season, I just think that's where we'll likely end up being. But still, given the lackluster opening it had, especially domestically, this is still a pretty impressive turnout all around. Worldwide, things are of course even better. It surpassed the $450 million milestone. Worldwide, I don't think it's going to get to $500 million. Again, just all of the competition out right now and on the horizon as we head into the holidays. Once again, that's definitely going to steal a lot of eyes from this movie, but still a pretty impressive run at the box office. I won't say it's great. It could have been a lot better, especially compared to its predecessors, but I still think this was able to beat all the odds it originally had against it. It looked like this was going to be a lesser of the Joker, Folly Ado disaster. It looked like it wasn't going to really perform that well, but it was able to surpass those expectations and actually become a decent sized hit, especially in this day and age of superhero movies, and certainly given the reputation of these movies. So yeah, not a great run, but not a terrible one. This was a interesting film to follow for its box office, and I'm happy it at least did not turn out to be as disastrous as we all thought it would be initially. Number 4 was Bonhoeffer, opening with $5 million this weekend domestically. That total stays the same worldwide as it hasn't been released in any international countries yet. This is yet another Angel Studios movie that just comes out of nowhere. I don't know how I'm able to just not notice these things come out, but every time they're able to sneak past me and crack the top 5, which I guess goes to show how impressive these movies are at surprising me, because again, I was not aware this movie was coming out. I didn't see many trailers or promos for this, but fortunately for this movie, a lot of other people did, and it was able to crack the top 5. I guess the story really resonated with a lot of people and captured a lot of people's attention, and given the strength of the other 2 big wide releases hitting theaters, this weekend, the fact that this was able to crack the top 5 alone is, once again, very impressive. I'm not sure what the budget is for this movie, but I can't imagine it could have been that much, so we'll see if this movie can leg out or if it will suffer the fate of the past other Angel Studios movies, be very front-loaded and then just fall off thereafter. But then again, Thanksgiving is coming this weekend, and word of mouth seems to be strong. It got an A cinema score rating. We'll see where that goes, whether this will help this movie out or not, but a formula is a formula, and I feel like this is probably going to follow that same formula, but also I've been wrong a lot on this show, so we'll see what happens. But as far as this movie's opening goes, definitely, once again, as Angel Studios always does, it comes out of nowhere and surprises me, so I can't say I'm not surprised by this movie's performance. Hopefully this will prevail, keep surpassing expectations, but given the past couple films from the studio, I'm gonna hold my breath on that, but still a pretty impressive opening. Number 3 was Red 1, making $13 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $52 million and a worldwide total of $118 million. So it could have been worse. I will say that it could have been a lot worse given the strength and I guess superiority of the competition. The 2 big movies out this weekend, this movie could have had like an over 60% drop off, but it wasn't able to do that. It barely missed it, but it once again barely missed it. So I guess this movie has that going for it pretty much, and it has also surpassed the $50 million milestone domestically and the $100 million milestone worldwide. Pretty impressive for a new Christmas movie like this. It's its own unique thing, yeah, and it shows the talents of the word of mouth seems to be pretty solid here. People do seem to want to go check it out, and as we get closer to Christmas, I'm sure the legs will start to pick up. But once again, the big issue here is that budget, man. This once again, this is a $250 million movie, and it seems like it's already losing steam. Now, as I've said already, I've been wrong on this show many times before. We saw Venom overcome the odds. Smile 2 was able to overcome the odds. So maybe something might happen with this movie as well. Maybe this movie gets a jump. Maybe people are just that much into the Christmas spirit. Maybe people are really interested and want to go check this out. Who knows? But right now, I just don't see that happening with this movie. We're about to head into Thanksgiving, and we got another big movie coming out that also has The Rock. So it's literally The Rock going up against The Rock this weekend. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I just feel like this movie is just going to feel the weight of all the competition, all the other bigger movies that people really want to go check out right now during the holidays. And this one's probably going to get swept under the rug because of that. Yeah, it's the big Christmas movie, but nothing is really standing out for it. People aren't that enthusiastic for it. It doesn't seem like it's drawing that many more new people to see it. I don't know. This is looking like a pretty big disappointment overall. Again, I've been wrong on this show before, but I just don't see this movie pulling it off, especially with that big budget. So yeah, like I said, it could have been worse, but I don't really think that's saying much for this movie. Number 2 was, funny enough, Gladiator 2, opening with $55 million this weekend domestically, and since it's already been released internationally, it brings its worldwide total to $220 million. So this is an interesting one because if you judge it for the type of movie it is, this opening isn't that bad. Hell, I'd say it's pretty great, you know? It's a rated R, 2.5 hour, bloody, violent, Roman epic action film that's also a sequel to a movie that's pretty much very similar to it, almost identical to it, rather, that came out 24 years ago, and it almost made $60 million on its opening weekend, coming out against a juggernaut that also opened the same weekend. More on that later. And also internationally, this film really took off. It's already passed 200 million worldwide. Very impressive numbers for this movie for sure. If you judge it based on the type of movie it is and just the movie itself, this is a pretty good start and things look very bright. But when you factor in a couple other things, then it doesn't look so great. First off, the budget. Like Red One, this is a $250 million movie. This was one of the movies that was largely affected by the writers and actors strike, and the budget got ballooned thereafter, and things don't seem too terrible right now. It's made a majority of that back, largely due to how strong it's been doing internationally. And you know, Thanksgiving's coming up, so it's probably not going to drop that big this weekend. But the thing is, audiences aren't really gelling with this movie either. It got a B cinema score rating, which is way lower than the A cinema score rating the first Gladiator got 24 years ago, and it's even lower than some of other the most recent Ridley Scott movies, you know, The Last Duel and House of Gucci, if you remember those got a B plus. So yeah, even some of the diehard Ridley Scott fans aren't really gelling with this movie. People do not seem that enthusiastic or positive about this movie, so I'm not even sure if the word of mouth is really gonna salvage this. It seems like this is gonna be another Venom situation where domestically things start a bit rough and maybe the word of mouth carries on and the film finds its audience soon after that, but the international numbers are really what helped this movie out for sure. But again, that budget is so much bigger than Venom. It's going to need all the help it can get internationally to really pull itself out of, you know, this sort of bubble it's in right now. So yeah, an interesting opening for Gladiator 2. It's going to be very interesting to see where this goes from here. Again, best case scenario, this is another Venom scenario. Maybe people weren't with it on its first weekend, but over time, more people decide to give it a chance and go see it. And then obviously the international numbers just carry this movie. But otherwise, I just feel like there's some issues here that really, really are holding this movie back. Just the word of mouth on this, and that budget especially is a big factor here. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where this movie goes from here. I wouldn't call it bad, but I wouldn't call it great either, if you know what I mean. As I've said already many times, very interesting. We'll see where it goes from this point forward. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, which was Wicked, opening with $112 million this weekend domestically and $162 million worldwide. This is the second biggest opening for a family film this year, topping Despicable Me 4, Kung Fu Panda 4, and The Wild Robot, but still sitting behind Inside Out 2. It's the third biggest opening of the year overall, topping Beetlejuice, and Dune Part 2, but once again still sitting behind Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. It's the biggest opening for any movie based off of a Broadway musical, topping Into the Woods, Mamma Mia, Hairspray, and Les Miserables, and is the fourth biggest opening for any musical ever, topping the live-action Little Mermaid movie, but still sitting behind Frozen 2, the live-action Beauty and the Beast, and the quote-unquote live-action Lion King. So while it didn't reach the really high expectations I and a lot of people were expecting it to, I wouldn't say this is a bad opening. Far from it. This is an excellent opening, given that it's a nearly 3-hour-long musical that isn't even the whole story. This is only the first part, which, by the way, wasn't even advertised as it was the first part in any of the marketing. The fact that this was able to make as much as it did this weekend is very impressive. They did a fantastic job selling this movie, and they are reaping the rewards for it. The movie was only $150 million, and it's already made that back worldwide. Now, the thing with this movie's performance is that domestically it crushed it. Internationally is another story. It didn't seem to have that big push from international audiences. We'll see if this is another Twisters or Beetlejuice, where domestically it crushes it, but internationally audiences aren't really that enthusiastic about it. But this is still, those movies were still hits, and I think this one's still going to be a hit, but just because of how strong the reception has been for this movie thus far. People are loving this movie. I haven't seen a movie with this much positive, glowing reception since probably The Wild Robot 2 months ago. The movie has an A cinema score rating. I think this movie's going to leg out very strong, especially during the holidays. I think we're going to see a lot of repeat viewings and very solid holds going into the end of the year. Pretty much, this seems like this is the movie to see right now. People are just loving this movie and encouraging everyone else to go and check it out, and I think I think this is gonna really climb up the charts to be one of the biggest movies of the year. However, there is one big addendum to this movie. There is another movie coming out this week, and it is not just another musical, it's another family musical, and it's a pretty big one at that. And this movie really only has a couple more days left to really make the most out of its time, given that movie comes out on Wednesday as opposed to the traditional Friday. So that's going to be interesting to see how those movies go up against each other. We'll see if they can coexist or if one decimates the other. Going to be very interesting to see how those two compare. But as far as this movie's opening right now and how things are looking for the film, as of right now, things are looking great for this movie. I have a lot of faith and hope for this movie's future. I think it's really gonna leg out once again. The repeat viewings, I just see them happening, and I think once again this movie's gonna leg out. The word of mouth has been so strong, and it's just been widely acclaimed by pretty much everyone who has seen it. I have a lot of faith in this movie. An excellent opening for Wicked. I'm very curious and happy to see it making this type of money. We'll see how much higher this movie can go, but I think it's going to only get higher from here. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we have one new major wide release, that film being Moana 2, the long-awaited sequel to the beloved Disney animated sequel that was originally supposed to be a TV show for Disney Plus, but apparently was so good they decided to turn it into a movie because, sure, why not? Now, Moana is a juggernaut. Everybody loves that first movie. It's a high bar, and I see absolutely every reason why they decided to turn that TV show into a movie. And it's not just because it was too good to be a TV show, if you know what I mean. And I think they've been doing a very good job of selling this movie. The marketing has been fantastic. I've been seeing all types of promos and ads for it all over. I think this had quite a presence during the Olympics, not as big as something like Wicked, but I definitely saw a lot of stuff for it there, and definitely a lot of stuff more recently. And the buzz has also been very strong with this movie as well. I cannot stress this enough. A lot of people want to go see this movie, especially in my area. A lot of kids, a lot of parents. This movie is top priority for a lot of people, and it makes sense. The last animated movie was just 2 months ago, and now we finally have one. And this is also going to be the last animated movie of the year, unless if you count, Mufasa, the Lion King, but I don't think many people do. But, still, like, the last animated movie that, actually is trying to look and feel like an animated movie this year, and I think that's really going to benefit this movie as well. It's Thanksgiving as well. Lots of kids are out of school, lots of families are out of work, so they're going to need to check out and see something, and this is the new big family musical out right now. The big thing with this movie is Wicked was just a couple days ago, and many people are still on the Wicked train, so gonna be interesting, like I said, to see how these movies compete with each other. Will they coexist? Will one of them dismantle the other one? I don't know, but all I know is this one is headed for a very big opening. I think we're gonna see some record-breaking open numbers for this movie for sure. This movie, I think, is absolutely gonna crush it. We're gonna see some very, very big numbers for this movie. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.